There's this classic problem when mixing in DAWs, which is when you go to automate your volumes, you lose complete control of your fader. This is catastrophic, but I'm going to show you exactly what you can do about it. Let's take a look. When you graduate beyond being a beginner mixer, you will be doing volume automation. Whether that's pre-dynamic control on a loud syllable on a specific vocal, or you want to increase an instrument during a loud chorus for just a section or just a phrase, or you want to automate the sends to a bus so you can create interesting reverb and delay throws. Realistically, you're going to be doing all three of those things on every single mix. So let me show you what the problem is, and you'll see how automation gets created in the process. Now, this will be similar but different in every DAW, but in Logic Pro, all we're going to do is press A on our keyboard, and this brings up the automation lanes. And as you can see, in this one, we're defaulting to volume, and that'll be the case on all of them where I haven't already done something. And to activate it, we just click once in the lane. Now you've got your yellow line, right? So let's say at the end of this phrase, I want to start increasing from negative 17 decibels, and to the beginning of the next part, I want to creep up to negative 11. And then right before the end, let's say we want an instantaneous change. So we'll just draw another dot, bring it up to negative 4, and make sure they're vertical over each other. So here's the problem. Let's say you're playing the track and the playhead's running along this long section with no automation data, and you move the fader because you want the whole track to come up a couple decibels. Cool, it does it until it hits this first automation node or until you resume playback. So let me show you. We've got the whole track at negative 17 on the fader, but let's say we want it at negative 15. Watch what happens as soon as I hit play, and then watch what happens when it encounters these automation nodes. Watch the fader. It immediately snapped back. We had it at negative 15. It immediately popped back to negative 17, and then it followed the automation data and made that little jump. That's the problem. Once you start writing volume automation, you lose control of your fader entirely. So the old solution to this problem was to make sure your mix was completely done. EQ, compression, effects, but especially your volume balancing. You had it right where you want it and you know you're not going to touch it, so then it doesn't matter if you lose control of your fader. So you write in your automation with mouse clicks or you write it manually with your fader. The main point is you were certain you weren't going to touch it again. But the reality is a mix ever really finished at this stage? You might wake up a few days later and listen to it in the car and be like, I'm making that change. Or the client might request a change a week later, or the mastering engineer a month later. So you don't really want to lose control of your faders, even if there's workarounds. It starts to get confusing as all this compounds. So thankfully we have some options. We've got 3 bad solutions, 1 okay option, and then 1 that's absolutely the best. So let me show these to you, and you might be like, hey, I like that. I can find a place in my workflow for that. That's fine. But if you hang in there and see the final one, you're going to say, yep, that one's definitely the best. So the first tactic we might reach for is to get rid of the automation data by bouncing the track in place. So let's do this. We're going to close the lane and we're going to click the right one, and then we're going to bounce the regions. We're going to create a new track. We're going to leave the old one, and most importantly, we're going to include the volume automation so that our changes are baked into the new file. Then, you could solo it and confirm that it's there. It is. And here's the conundrum. You either have to keep the old track so you can go back to the automation data and undo or make tweaks, or you have to accept the changes and just delete the original track. But the new track does give you full control of your fader. The problem is, if you do this for every single track that you've written automation data on, and you keep the old ones, you're going to clutter up the multi-track. So this might be acceptable during your pre-mix prep where you're just cleaning up noise and you're fixing loud syllables. That might be fine here, but in general, this is not a very ideal solution. So another option is again to not automate the fader, but to automate the output gain of the last plugin in your signal chain. So on this track, the last thing we have is a channel EQ. So we can highlight all these nodes and then go to our parameters, run up to our EQ and select the master gain. Here's a trick. If you alt click, you can copy over that automation data that we highlighted. So let's do that. It looks the exact same. The difference is now in blue because we're now on an automation lane for the master gain of that final EQ. Here's the conundrum. If you want to later put a compressor after this EQ, you got to deal with two problems. Number one, these volume changes are now hitting the threshold in ways we didn't intend. And number two, we now have to copy this automation data over to the compressor's output gain because it's the new last plugin. We've now done busy work and we've gotten pulled out of our creative mode. This is also not ideal. The third of the bad options would be to create a VCA or a bus just for this one individual track. Let's do it. Let's come to the output and we'll go to the buses and we'll grab bus 21. And here it is. We'll name it Main Bells Bus. Now here's what we get to do. We get to either copy this automation data over to the bus or we had the sense to start with the bus. But now we've got more clutter in our mixer. Now we got to remember where the heck the automation data for this random Main Bells track is 2 weeks later. This is also not ideal. These previous three bad solutions all have some pretty hefty downsides to them. They're not ideal. This next one is the okay solution in my eyes, but you may find you like it and you like the way that it organizes things. So let me show it to you. So in the past 10 years or so, DAWs have started offering a whole separate automation lane for another type of volume. So here's what you haven't known is this default volume that hijacks your fader is the absolute volume setting. And if we open up another automation lane, we'll get off of our old master gain. If we go to main and go to volume, you see the absolute, that's our default. And then we have this relative with a plus or minus sign. Let's select that and we'll see that it is indeed a volume, but with a little plus or minus sign in front of it, right next to the equal sign. So that's kind of a problem because it's visually confusing. But the difference is on the absolute side here with the data I've got, it's saying, hey, at this node, move the fader exactly to -17, make it climb exactly to -12.4 decibels. These are the exact values I want you at. On the relative side, what we're really saying is, hey, climb from where you were. It doesn't matter where you were. You weren't at 0. This is saying no change, but I'm saying it doesn't matter where you're at. I want you adding 3.4 decibels. Then I want you subtracting 1.4. From wherever you started, it's relative to where you started. Here's what you can do. You can have the relative automation data and get rid of the absolute data. And now it's defaulted to where my fader is. Here's the problem, is if you just pull up the relative automation lane and you start writing data, you're going to find you still lose control of your fader. The trick, or rather bug, is that you have to also have the absolute volume data up and just have it enabled and let the line sit wherever you want your fader. Like watch the line. It moves up and moves down with my fader and it's still buggy and jumping around like crazy, but you can set it where you want and you have to do this in order to use the relative one because it's basing itself off the absolute. So now we're at -10.4. Watch what the relative does. It doesn't jump all the way to 3.4. It just adds 3.4 to this -10.4 value. Watch. The problem is it's buggy as hell. If you don't set the absolute volume, the relative one will assume your absolute volume is -6. It'll display it like that as a visual bug, even though it's set at your -17 or whatever. If it worked well, I would tell you this was a great solution. All your automation data is exactly where you expect it. It's buggy. I wouldn't mess with it. There's the best option of all. I cannot describe to you how much I hate what I just showed you. Let me move on and show you the best option, which is we're going to go to the end of our signal chain. We're going to go to utility gain and we're going to grab a gain plugin. And just like we were automating the output gain of our EQ, which was the previous last plugin, we're going to automate the gain on the gain plugin. So we'll go to our parameters, run up to our plugins, and we're going to grab gain. And whatever changes we want to make, we can write them right there on the gain knob. The beauty of this is like the previous method was trying to show you with the relative versus absolute, but it's so buggy. The gain plugin is giving you those relative volume changes. So you still have control of your fader, and no matter where you set it, all we're saying is +1, +2, -1. You still have control of your fader. And doing it at the end of the signal chain is perfect for like, this chorus got really dense. We need to bump the volume of the vocals up by a decibel. Oh, and here in the bridge, let's bring the guitar down so the piano has a chance to shine. That's what this is perfect for. And you can drop a gain plugin at the beginning of the signal chain. If I can get one in there. Yeah. Now you got two at one point. On the first one, you can do your pre-mix prep, cleaning up noise, fixing loud syllables or finger squeaks on guitars, whatever. You can do that in the first one. You still have the second one. They're both relative volume changes, and you still have control of your fader. It's so perfect. This is the way to go, I promise. And when you're not doing gain staging, when you see your gain plugins either at the start or the end of your plugin stack, you know this is specifically for volume automation. They live right there on the one track, so you know exactly which track they're automating. You can't beat it. This is perfect. You can do it on buses, the mix bus, whatever. This is absolutely the way to go. Forget the other nonsense, the OK solution. It's buggy. I didn't even realize it because I haven't used it in so long. The gain plugin method is the way to automate volumes without losing control of your fader. Mwah. I'd recommend avoiding the bad and even the OK solution to this problem. Just simplify your workflow so you don't have your relative volume automations all over the place. Just plan it so that you always know that you're going to, or you've already done your automation exclusively on your gain plugins. And leave your gain staging to the clip gain and to the output gain on your other plugins like you should be. And then this other problem is completely solved. With all that being said, you may be automating your volumes too much in the mix prep work or before you feed that track over into a compressor because maybe you're not sure, should I EQ first or compress first? And the answer is neither. There's a much better way. So if you click on this video right here, I'll show you the 3C method. It'll drastically improve your mixes instead of you spending times on forums reading about this crazy debate. So check it out and I'll catch you over there. The 3C method is the jam, son.